Hello.
Hey.
This is AirGo.
It is indeed.
I'm Kiss.
I'm Damon.
And what we do here is reshape culture for the more liberatory and creative.
We got a dear friend and collaborator, Sarah Oberholtzer, with us. We know them as Sarah O. Y'all may know them as the creator of We Call Each Other.
We Call Each Other is this incredible short film series. The first one just came out into the world, and we need your help making the second one come to fruition. So go to wecalleachother.com and help support this beautiful work that's really like making tangible and making visible different ways that our society can address harm, which, if you listen to us, you know that's maybe one of our little interests.
This is our jam. And so for folks who are interested in moving towards a world beyond carceral systems, beyond police and prisons, beyond all the yada yada yadas, we got to meet people where they are, and we got to move people through narrative and through their heart space. And so Sarah has taken on that assignment wonderfully, and we talked to them all about it.
In addition to this film, Sarah was a producer on our 1 Million Experiments film, and took those skills and so much more to make this beautiful film come to fruition. Again, watch the first installment, which is out now, and help support and fundraise for the second installment, which is in pre-production as we speak. You can, of course, follow us at AirGo Radio, at Respair Media,
follow,
comment, rate, review.
Show the boys some love, man. You know you got it in you.
We also just finished putting out our abolitionist travel show, 1 Million Experiments in the Field.
Mm-hmm.
It is on the Respair Media YouTube channel at Respair Media. We went to Minneapolis, New York, LA, Seattle, Detroit, talked with brilliant change makers and organizers in each of those spaces, got to see what this work looks like in real life and have some beautiful conversations. So make sure you go check that out. Subscribe to us both on YouTube and here on the audio. That's all the ado I got. You got any ado?
That's all we got for you, man. Let's get to it. It's about that time.
Let's hop into it with Sarah O.
Yeah. We are here. We are excited. This is truly the home team. Our beloved is with us. We have filmmaker, organizer, writer, tender heart. I'm going to do it, y'all. I'm going to do it. Sarah Oberholtzer is in the building! Sarah, yeah, Sarah, All right, this is a big deal, folks. For those who don't know, I've known Sarah for a very long time, and I know Sarah as Sarah O. And for some reason, your last name is the hardest word in the English language for me. And so I got across the finish line today, so we're ready to rock. We're ready to party.
I feel like this was a real rite of passage for
you.
It was.
Yeah. I feel accomplished.
Took y'all's relationship to the next level.
We're there now. We're here.
Yeah.
So Sarah, we're going to start it how we always do in our tradition, two-part question. Centered around time. Define this time however you will. This time could be this day, this season, this hour, this lifetime. In this time, how is the world treating you, and how are you treating the world, Sarah?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
You said my name exactly right, by the way, for the record.
With inflection.
With
too.
inflection.
Yeah. Exclamation point.
Yeah, emphasize it. Yes. Okay. Let's see. So
you said it in the original German.
Yeah. Period. Yes. Okay. Let's see. So the world. So I was thinking about this question, obviously, because I know this is a part of the what y'all ask, and I think my inner world is treating me with so much love in ways that it's kind of like, oh, people can love you for real. So my inner world is showing love in ways that feel quite transformative and literally helpful.
Even better.
Yeah, I know, literally. It's top
It's one
tier.
thing to feel good. It's another thing to be helpful.
Man, I'm telling you. Yeah, so, but I will say the outer world, the material world, the world as written in the Bible of this materialist, capitalist, imperial world it's intense. It's intense. I think it's trying to beat your boy down, not gonna lie. I'm noticing that for a lot of people at this particular moment. The world is not doing a kind thing to many of us, and I'm feeling that as well, not gonna lie. And then how am I treating the world? One of the first things that came to my mind was stillness. That's a new thing that I'm trying to get. I'm reorienting myself around the need for stillness in this moment. because I think it provides thoughtfulness that is required of this moment. And so hopefully I'm treating the world with thoughtfulness and stillness, actually.
Fun fact, stillness is the name of my Wi-Fi network because I
Okay.
wanted every time I logged in to be reminded to calm the fuck down.
There we go. Yeah, no, literally. It's
Yeah.
top tier, like sitting down.
What's the stillness been looking like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, basic level is breathing, like intentional breathing. It's actually, it's great because when in a world full of like to-dos and like tasks and urgency and pressures to do a lot of things, like having your only goal be to breathe in and your only goal be to breathe out is quite helpful. It's quite, the word that's coming to mind honestly is like liberating, in that like that's all you have to do and then you succeed once you've done it, and then it drops your heart rate and does all these like physiological things that are helpful. But that is one of the things, is like just intentional breathing throughout my day. If I can, like sitting down. Okay. Underrated.
2 thumbs up for
Avid
sitting down.
sitters over here.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
2
Yeah.
thumbs up, 2 asses in seats.
Yes, exactly. No, it's man, sitting down in silence really, I'm telling you, it is makes a world of a difference sometimes.
So what does
Long time.
that stillness, what does that silence, what is it making space for?
Honestly, like me to realize like how I feel. Like I'll sit down and be like, oh, Sarah, you're tired. Or, oh, Sarah, you're hungry right now. Or, oh, you were doing too much. And so you need to like recalibrate. Because it just, pushing ourselves past what we can do, like I don't think is helpful for any sort of work. And so it makes me like clock what I need more. And then one other thing I'll say that like is related to this, that someone who I recently am now in community with shared this like advice to identify your emotion and then ask your emotion what it needs you to do or know. And so that's also been a practice I've been doing lately.
Ooh.
Yo.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What it needs you to do or know?
Yeah. What your emotion is telling you.
Because the idea is that it's signaling something.
Exactly.
That's, we have these emotions because it's trying to signal an internal or external threat or whatever it is. It's like, all right, what's the info you're trying to give?
Exactly.
I
And
like
what's
that.
the thing you're trying, it's like your emotions as a messenger for knowledge or action. Yeah.
Because then you got to actually pay attention to them in a different way.
And like recognizing, feeling, like validating it. But I think sometimes our like sit with your feelings, treat them as an end all be all, right? Like I'm not feeling well, so
Right.
now I'm stuck.
Right.
I'm frustrated,
Right.
so now I'm mad.
Right.
I'm mad, so now I'm angry.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like,
Exactly.
and like there's this almost, particularly I think for,
That was fun to see your Hulk trajectory.
particularly I think for negative feelings that we're like trying to reclaim, there's almost been like a pendulum swing of reifying them or enshrining them. And so I'm hearing this as like itinerary for like what we need, how we need to move through, right? It's not deny them. It's not let it go. It's not that they are invalid, but it's also not they are permanent. And I think there's a little bit of like in these emotion streets, like some permanence concretizing.
Yeah,
things where
some
it's
kind of
like,
reaffirming of the feeling that reaffirms the feeling. And it's like,
That maybe isn't good for you to be in perpetually.
in perpetually, feel feel our feelings, 2K forever, and like learn from the feelings, or like I just like the idea that our emotions can tell us something or require us to do something in that moment. Like I feel like there's been moments when I've asked myself, okay, now what is that emotion asking me to do? And then really the thing was like, you need to breathe more. And I started just breathing more, like from that moment on. I was like, oh, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
That was really helpful.
And it was there the whole time.
The whole time. But I just needed to actually like slow down because it was messing shit up.
And you were actually breathing a little.
Right.
It wasn't even breathing. You're like, look, I am breathing.
Let's breathe more.
Bump it up a
More.
little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly.
Yeah.
We need some accent.
Let's get that oximeter number up.
Yeah.
Be funny, like how breathing is like involuntary, but it's always happening, but you can be conscious about it. What if like we're not blinking right? What if in like 10 to 15 years there's gonna be all these books and all these workshops about you're not seeing the world correctly
because
you're
blink out.
Blink in.
Then you gotta wink 3 times. Do like like the
the
breathing
fire.
where you translate.
Exactly. It was actually just like
Kalabati fire blinks. Yeah.
Everyone at home, make sure you're tending to your blinking.
Yeah.
Don't blink shame me.
Yeah.
So that is like a very good reminder that like what can this be telling me? And we heard a little bit more just like on a personal level how it's regulating you and making it easier to move through just the moments. But we're talking to you in a time where some things that you've poured a lot into are reaching the world. And so, I want to talk a little bit about the time that we're sitting down with you as longtime friends and collaborators with this film that you've poured so much into now being available in the world. What are you anticipating? What are you feeling that is maybe surprising about that? How does it feel? And I guess let's start. Tell us a little bit about We Call Each Other.
Yeah, let's say.
What are we talking about?
Breathe in. Tell us about We Call Each Other.
Yes. Okay, so We Call Each Other is a short film series that began after years of community organizing and just like knocking on doors and talking to people, honestly, across the country, and realizing that people liked the ideas that were part of our campaigns. And the campaigns all related in some way to defunding militarized strategies for quote unquote safety and investing in life-centered strategies, investing in people's relationships to one another, investing in the things that people need to survive as a concept, and talking to people, I mean, honestly, across the country, and people liking the idea, but literally not believing that it was A, possible, or B, that it could be connected to their safety. Literally. They liked the idea, but couldn't tangibly imagine it for their particular location or geography. And I was like, oh, so this is like a problem. Like, this is going to be a problem. If we're like trying to build a world where people have what they need and are self-sufficient in themselves, by themselves, for themselves.
Because there's almost something easier about people who are ignorant to the idea or disagree.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, I can
let's move through these logics.
Right.
Let's move through these claims.
Right.
Let's move through these arguments. But no, what you're saying makes sense to me. I hear that. But like, I can't believe in it or hold it or internalize it or embody it.
Literally. It reminds me of this quote that Myra recently brought up. And it was, it's like, it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, right? And so it's like people literally were struggling to imagine a situation in which they had what they needed. It was like not tangible in their grasp or in their like imaginative reality. And so, I was like, okay, well, I'm a filmmaker. I can make a film. And at the time I had actually like stepped away from filmmaking. Actually, I was doing like organizing more full time in my career. And so, shout out to like, not shout out, but like we can flag career organizing. But anyway, I was doing that a lot. But I wasn't really filmmaking at the time. I had stepped away from filmmaking. I was like, this is not for me. But then after so many of those experiences, I was like, okay, well, we can show examples of people having what they need and not relying on carceral strategies to address harm or crises that show up in the community, in their like lived realities. And then, so then fast forward, I just really remembered that like I emailed you all about the writer's room. I don't know if you remember this. This is like a throwback to how long we've been doing this work for this particular project. I remember like I emailed y'all and then was like, hey, I'm trying to start this writer's room. Like, I don't know where to start, but can you help? And so, basically, and then in 2021, Damon, Olivia Peace, Troy Lewis, and Alicia Camille, we were all a part of a abolitionist writer's room, and together we developed the world of the series. And from that process, we created 3 treatments, although I'm, God willing, by the grace of God, if we're able to get as much funding as possible, I hope to create more and more examples, more than 3. And we created 3 treatments, and then from that process, I wrote the 3 scripts for each treatment, and now again, by the grace of God, we've completed the first film of the series and are working on the second film. And that's, I think, the project that you're referencing right now.
It is. Good guess. That would have been really funny. But I was like, no.
Yeah. What about this other thing?
We have questions, and maybe you have one burning. But before we get into curiosities, like just in you retelling that narrative, just want to affirm you of like just how beautiful that is, and like was able to see not the fear, but just like the real weight of what it means to, similarly to like creating a new political reality, to like create something that means so much to what you want to contribute to the world. And so, you know, you kind of talked about being in a organizer detour kind of in how you said that. But I remember in that time that you had a compass and like not a assuredness of how to get there, like what will be in the path, but you had a direction in which you were going. And so to have seen the different iterations of the process, to have seen you in the writer's room, to see the piece now, for there to be screenings, for there to be ways for people to plug in and support, just very, very proud of you, and congratulations. And like, it is a contribution that we need. And it is we try to move away from like examples or models, but you are exemplifying, I think, the type of like creative intervention that our world and our world building specifically, like so direly, desperately needs. So,
thank you, appreciate that.
I've never done a golf clap. Yeah, bravo. And not just in what the film is, but also in that process.
Yeah,
that you just
absolutely.
named. That's part of what like piqued my curiosity from those first emails, and then in following the project was your like determination to not build the world by yourself.
No. Yeah.
But that's not how a lot of people view their individual artistry or the projects that are burning a hole in the back of their head. So let's talk a little bit about the decision to build. You said an abolitionist writer's room as if that's like a thing that just exists. So we pulled out the toolkit, built our abolitionist writer's room, did our workshop. Yeah. How did that framework come to be of like, if I'm going to move forward, I got to do it with my people here?
Yeah. I mean, okay, right. So we had the idea, right, of like, okay, so we need to build these examples. And then it just kind of got to me. I was like, I'm around there's so many brilliant people, abolitionists in my life, who easily can imagine these things, right? There's so many of us that like examples of abolitionist presence, examples of like ways that we're building realities that don't rely on carceral strategies are like so top of mind for so many people. And so what a disservice that would be to the work if we didn't include more people into the creation of this thing. Was one. Two was like, it's not good if it's just my brain. Like, not even to like discount my brain, but
shout out to your brain.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But
and I just knew that a writer's room would be more fruitful of a process to create something with depth and like need. It was a mix of just like having so many brilliant homies and be like, dang, that'd be cool if like we could all like, just like talk about this thing and then create the thing together. And then two, of like, me doing this particular thing on my own that's not it. Me imagining a thing by myself feels quite antithetical to the project, and the point,
So how did it feel to like that first time getting people in the room together? What was going on in your body? What was going on in that brain?
Yeah, I was so excited.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, that's the thing. It's like I emailed y'all in 2021, right? And then for 2 years, I basically tried fundraising a lot to be able to pay folks that were a part of the writer's room. And so there was a 2-year period of just like ideating and like strategizing and curriculum developing and like mapping out certain like protocols that I asked everyone to like abide by or like agree to. And yeah, it was a lot of like curriculum development stuff. But so yeah, I mean, when it started, I was geeked. I was probably very hyper. I don't know, David. What's your?
What did it feel like for you? What was it like for you, David?
Yeah.
I think like hyper has a connotation of like being outside yourself, and so like you were excited, you were energized. But what I really took from the whole process was, one, just how generative it was for me, but two, your skill of like there's this level of all of these ideas, and like as we're going through it, I'm like, wow, we're saying a bunch of shit, like what it means to. I know this needs to be harnessed down, and then there was just like a crispness and a tightness to which you were able to take these processes, these conversations, these workshops, these theorizings, these story development, and then put it into script, to put it into dialogue, to put it into interaction. There's one moment that like I remember that I was like embarrassed about. That I can't remember specifically what it was. But it was one thread. Maybe it was about, I think it might have been the second or third piece, but it was something about maybe stealing or something. And you had this like line. I'm like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. This is so. You're like, yeah, that was what you said.
Yes, that's right.
I was like, oh no, I was not trying to compliment myself.
I remember
thought you
that.
did such a good job. I did not remember saying that.
Yes. No, actually that was, okay, so basically from the writer's room.
But it speaks to the skill I was talking about of like, you put a thing that I said and recommended. I did remember saying it, and like you put it into the script in a way that like I received it and was moved by it, forgetting that I recommended it.
Oh, that's so funny.
I've always said you're your favorite audience.
That's good. I mean, you identified the thing.
Yeah.
No, I think that was actually, so we haven't released them yet, but I hope that we do. Basically, we came up with some lessons learned. So it was when we were reviewing all of the lessons we had learned from the writer's room, and I think that was the moment. It was a learning that you had that you had said at some point in making the project that. Yeah, something that you had said, and then I included that in like a lesson that we had learned, and you were like, oh yeah.
Also, a cute little behind the scenes thing about it is that you were often facilitating from this like public room at the library.
I was.
So they're getting all like excited. It's like, yeah, man, fuck the cops. We got and like the like librarian comes in and like does a literal like TV level stereotypical like, shh, you have to be quiet in here. And I thought that was cute because he was like out in the little suburbs.
Man, yeah, no, I was in these book a free meeting room, y'all, in Chicago public libraries.
Big proponent.
Free study room.
Just don't get too hyped.
I was getting a little loud. I'm not gonna lie, I was getting a little loud.
And then probably the librarian would have agreed. Knowing librarians, they'd probably been like, look, this sounds like a great project. It's too many sounds.
Exactly, you're disturbing this piece.
and so, that was one little memory I had. But for your perspective, like, you had this ambition, you had this idea of like, creating this new thing that takes more time, takes more resource, but you saw it as a value, not just in form, but I think in alignment. And so in entering that process, what are the learnings? What were the takeaways of just that creation?
Yeah.
You mean even before the film? Just of
the writer's room, and then going from, I'm going to gather these folks together. Some folks have more film experience. Some folks are just organizers. Some folks kind of, I feel like I could do a little bit of the both, and like what actually came from the idea to then the reality of going through it.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I think, one of the first moments in the process of creating this project that I realized that I can't do too much. So I think I was trying to do too much. I was taking the notes, I was facilitating the meeting, and also like planning the meeting. And at some point it became like actually unhelpful. And so that's what I did realize. One was like, it's not helpful when you do everything. It's counter to the process. And so that was one of my first times learning that lesson. Not in my life, but for this project.
Sometimes we need reminders.
Reminder again and again. You can't do this alone. Can't do anything alone. Don't do anything alone, actually. Unless, whatever. Anyway, solitude is important too. But
how different was what came out from it from what you'd maybe expected coming in?
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So I envisioned that by the end of the writer's room that we would have scripts. And that was one thing that during the process we realized, like, oh, we're building a world. Like, we don't have time. It was an 8-week process. And so that's what I had funding to like support folks for. And so we ended up basically just coming to treatments and not actually full scripts. In my brain, I had imagined that we would be able to like actually like write together and like do all that. But yeah, we didn't get to that.
So then taking that into the next stage and then taking this world that had been built and bringing it to actually like writing dialogue, how much of a departure from what you'd made before was that? Because I don't actually know. I know you in the in the organizer interlude. I don't know the other filmmaker part. How new of an experience was that for you?
Right. Great question. One thing I'll actually say, though, about the learning is that I didn't expect to build the world with everyone. I just expected to build the scripts. So what we came out with was way more rich than I would have even thought that we needed.
Yeah, we went back like 30 years.
Yeah,
so
we've created a whole situation. Yeah, for sure. But so this is my first narrative film. So this is my first time creating a piece that I had written. I think I took like one screenwriting class in college. Didn't really like it that much because they were telling me that I had to write in this really particular way. And I was like, fuck this is ridiculous.
And the cops always win at the end.
Or it's just like, yeah, it's like, it's a 3-act structure. And by page 11, you do this. And by page 30, this has to happen. And I was like, this is so routine and like, So I did go to film school. I don't think you need to go to film school to be a filmmaker. But before this, I had mostly done like documentary or like experimental stuff. So this is really like one of the first times I was basically teaching myself how to make a narrative film while I was making this project, like reading books and like Googling how to direct, like literally. So it was a very big learning curve. So I technically went to film school, was mostly just doing like documentary and like experimental portraiture stuff before this like narrative piece.
That structure that you were like, I'm not here for this. Did you find that any of it crept in or was helpful?
Oh, no, I didn't really think about that class. I will say I did end up reading a book on the neuroscience of storytelling.
Well, let's get into that.
Get your breathing and blinking together.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's go there. What did you find in that book that was interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, it taught me so much. Basically, one, we learn information via story. That's the primary mode through which we learn anything. And because this is a largely pedagogical project, like we're like, it's not so much like entertainment. This film series is not like an entertainment project. It's actually like wanting people to like get something out of it. So that's one thing I learned was like storytelling is the primary means through which we learn information. 2 is that storytelling specifically, actually the book was about like novels, but I think any type of storytelling or like world building is that what ends up happening as we as human viewers watching a thing, naturally our brains are placing ourselves inside of the lives of the things that we're viewing. So storytelling as a function, as a storyteller, you have to be mindful of the fact that people who are witnessing your work are placing themselves into your piece. Like that's just a thing that our brains, I guess, cognitively do. The second thing is that our brains are typically hardwired to like learn how to survive. That's like, just from developmentally, that's like something that our brains are interested in doing for ourselves. And so when we place ourselves inside of media that we see, we're typically trying to figure out how to navigate the situation for ourselves. Like, how would we interact with that thing so that we're learning, if I were to be in a similar situation, how would I survive?
I feel like the most like tangible example is like in a horror movie. They're like, no, don't go through that door. Like, that is my instincts.
Exactly. Because we've pushed ourselves in there and we said, no, I wouldn't do that. I don't do that.
I'm never splitting up.
I'm never splitting up. Don't split up, all this stuff. That's our brains naturally do that, actually. And I think with any... Basically, it was the book was naming that in any piece of media, or just like information in general, our brains are trying to learn how to survive. They're making connections between data that we see at all times. Like we're constantly making connections, trying to build connections between things. So as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, be intentional about what you put on the screen because people are constantly drawing connections to them. And so it would be tips that are like, include only what is relevant to the story in your story, because people are going to start making connections to things and be dissatisfied if you've introduced something that has no relationship to anything else in the story, and then they'll disengage from the project.
So like interrelated information and survival kind of as like the building blocks of what I just picked up from that, which is so interesting and kind of meta because this is a piece about collective survival. So like the fact that you're saying the exercise of viewing anything triggers this learning process about personal or individual survival connected to this story of like, how do we care for each other in order to thrive? Is there anything that feels unique about that, like relative to other films that feels like, oh, people are already looking for like an action film or a horror film about survival.
It's like if four bad guys surround me, I do this move first, then this, and that,
but without giving too much of the story away, because we want people to watch it, right? Like it is based in a premise of a community that is, you know, building earth-rooted technologies, food work, agriculture work to ensure the survival of people in a new way.
Right.
And so just like that narrative track with this like psychological foundation of what you're explaining us all films are.
Are you trying to show people a different way to survive?
Right. I will be. I didn't make the connection between.
That's what we're
it
here
was
for.
mostly just.
We're back in the writer's room.
Back in the writer's room. I know. I was like, oh, period. No, I was really just trying to make this film or to like write the script.
But now that you've said that, can you see that tie?
Yes. No. Definitely. I mean, well, okay. I will say, in writing the project, I intend or I hope that people are able to place themselves in any one of the characters and like learn something or like think about something differently. So that was intentional. Yeah. Each character, each moment that the character has is quite intentional in the film.
So in talking about the like this as a learning tool, and we're talking about like how people look for ways to survive within it. What are you hoping people understand about a different way to survive based on the story of this film?
That's the good job. I was trying to get there.
Okay.
Teamwork.
Yeah. Period. You know, I actually don't want to like name what I hope people get away from it.
Ooh, good filmmaker answer. Look
you
at that.
know,
Look at that. We almost got you.
You really did. What's the one thing you should? No, I don't want to tell you the one thing you're supposed to take away because also I don't know your journey. I don't know where you're at in your process, like where you're at in your life, like what you need to know now.
So let me rephrase.
Okay.
Not what's the takeaway, but like what's the invitation that you hope it makes for people?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think definitely one invitation is like, know your neighbors. Know your neighbors. And also just like, it doesn't have to be that hard to imagine life without a militarized officer, more militarized officers on your street. Like, it doesn't, I think that's one of the invitations is like, I think people get really scared by the idea, understandably so, that this thing that they are told is supposed to keep them safe will be gone. And so the invitation is like, maybe we can let go of that fear.
Yeah. All right. I have a question, which is my job.
That's good.
But I feel like the obvious question to ask at this moment would be you told us that you learned all these lessons as an organizer in movement, and how did that inform you as a filmmaker? Which I think is valuable because I think there are a lot of ethics.
That voice didn't make it
sound a lot of like human dynamics that like in the circles, the literal circles that we build are not normative in every other space. And so taking some of those ethics, I think, inform the work. But I actually want to flip it because what you said is that all information learning happens through story or narrative in some way. And so now in doing this exercise, what do you think this can offer to people who are not going to take a filmmaking class or who do not see themselves yet as storytellers explicitly, who are trying to do this type of social, who are doing that door knocking that you were doing? Right. Now that you've taken on the exercise of like, oh, we need narrative change. Okay, here's 5 years of me making this the most important thing that I do. Now I've done it. Going back to the folks that are just, door to door trying to get people to see this new world. What lessons do you think you can offer?
Yes. Okay. So one thing that I'll say about our brains develop information via story or like gain information via story. I also want to name that's like anthropological. Like we were like early ancestors were like telling stories to give information on like how to survive.
So I'm walking through the woods and this bear pops out.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And also I encourage people to like think about anytime anyone has ever told you something, it's in the format of story. I promise you. Like there is a setup, there is an exposition, there are main characters, there's a conflict that happens.
They don't all tell stories equally well.
No.
But it's an attempt. Yeah,
exactly. But someone will say a thing in a way that follows some sort of a story format. Not like any 3-act thing, but okay. So, but to answer your question, great question. I mean, one thing that I did end up learning throughout, so I mostly did like communications strategy work in like organizing spaces. And so I did end up realizing that like people gravitated to what we were doing when they saw a personal connection to the work. And so, I mean, I think as a filmmaker, I always knew that like art was important for helping people think differently. There's also another book that I was reading for a period of time on like neuro arts, which is basically this understanding that like the brain needs art actually, like cognitively we need art because it forces the brain to function in a particular different way, in like very helpful ways. It creates new neural pathways, all this stuff. So yeah, filmmaking and like being an artist in movement spaces has just really shown me that like people don't respond to words, or like people don't respond to data in the way that they respond to seeing a father take care of his child, you know, or they see a mom get like be late for the bus and then can't miss, you know, like all these
yeah, or to take it, you know, to hear the statistics of police killings versus seeing the video of someone lose their life.
Precisely.
You know?
Yeah. It just, I mean, we need creative solutions. Like we need creative solutions. And yeah, I think that was maybe one. That's actually why I had to step away from organizing, was it had turned off a part of my brain that was so important to me, of this like creative brain. And my invitation is to think of the work that we're doing as storytelling. Obviously, I think we understand it as world building, but like just that like people are people, you know, like they're people who also like interpret information via feeling. That's the other thing, is like the brain clocks important things based on how they make you feel. So like, let's know that, you know, like as we're doing this work and as we're engaging, you know, in things.
So I'm thinking about this, like lessons of survival being what people look to film to. And I'm thinking about the movies that are important to me, and then thinking like, why does that resonate with me? And so I'm curious for you, are there films that like either we know explicitly are promoting messages around abolition, or maybe more valuable films that like, this is not an abolitionist film, but you're like, actually, this was helpful in understanding how to make an abolitionist film? Or just, I read that in it in a way that maybe wasn't intended, but it's actually showing what this world could look like.
Right. I was hoping you would actually ask me something like this, because I was just talking to a friend of mine who I don't think she identifies as an abolitionist, but we were talking about prisons and like the need or the not need for prisons. And I recently saw a film. Have you all seen The Sound of Metal?
Is that?
No, this is the Riz Ahmed
Yeah,
movie?
Riz Ahmed, yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I
Okay.
know the general arc.
Okay, right. So in the film, this isn't a spoiler, but so in the film, he goes to a program and he has to be separated from his community, or he has to be separated from a group of people. He doesn't have access to his phone, or like any transportation, or he can't leave basically. And the friend that I was like arguing with, I was like, why do we need prisons? She was like, some people need to be away for a while, and that's what she was advocating for. And then this film, I ended up seeing this film where this guy had to be away from his community. But the whole process was obviously like life-centered. It was also like a learning space where he was like learning basically how to navigate as a deaf person. And that film really exemplified just what it can look like to invest in a person as a way to keep other people safe. Because the other thing was like, he had like explosive like rage outbursts, but it was in this environment where people were already nurturing him. So like the going to violence didn't make sense in that world, right? Like it just didn't make sense because he was already in a nurturing environment. And so when he had like angry outbursts, they were in this like container that was already holding him. And I don't think they meant for it to be an abolitionist film, but it made me think about like, a friend who had pushed back and saying like, we need some people to be in a prison. And I was pushing back like, no, like we don't take people away from their community. And so
that's already, it's lighting up things for me. Cause like when I hear that friend conversation of saying we need a place,
right.
And in the story that you're telling,
there is a place.
There is a place. And what does it, we need many more places, right? We need places before someone commits an act of harm that is criminalized, right? Like this in this story, I've seen the previews, but I haven't seen it. But like he's a drummer that's like losing his hearing and is upset about that. That's upsetting and is raging out like you said. But it sounds like in the film there's no like assault or no major body is being cared for, is being loved. And so there are many people, right, who are never going to commit the most egregious act of harm, or before these egregious act of harms are committed, need a place, need resources, need investment, need care. And so again, to inviting people to rethink this world, it's like, why do you only think of the place after the person is so unwell that they hurt somebody?
Exactly.
And also, there might need to be a place where someone is separate from their usual lived environment, but that doesn't mean separate from their community necessarily, if you expand what that means. And also,
or their humanity.
Right. The difference between like separation and isolation is really being separated to go have your needs met and cared for and maybe moved to be able to get to a different place versus what it means to like isolate and deprive people of socialization. That's an interesting example. Anything for you that's like an accidental abolitionist film?
Oh, dang! I'm gonna think on it. You got me, because I do this exercise all the time, but I can't think of my pinpoint.
I have two that are both recent watches. One, I'd never seen Blues Brothers. Have you ever seen Blues Brothers? Classic Chicago film. That's what I'd always heard. Never watched it. The only thing that really makes it this is they spent like 3/4 of the budget on exploding police cars. That's like most of the movie is like how many police cars can we get and then how many times can we throw them into the Chicago River.
Curious to look at that budget.
That's like the most of it. So that's just one. And then the other, Paddington 2.
Really?
Yeah. This is a non-ironic plug for the Paddington franchise.
Oh, right.
The Paddington franchise is a remarkable piece. First of all, Paddington 2 is the highest rated movie in history on Rotten Tomatoes. It's the only movie with 100%. Citizen Kane had 100%, and then they found one negative review and bumped it down to 99, and so that leaves Paddington 2 as the only one. But it is, the first one is like about immigration and migration and assimilation, and how do you hold on to a sense of self and fit into a new place. The second one is about like, some of the isolation of and like being wrongfully accused in the legal system. And then the third one is about like returning home and what does it mean to be like split between two places. And like, yes, I'm reading a little in, but like not that much. So strongly recommend the Paddington franchise.
You're not the first person to tell me that. You're now the second person to say that, actually.
How many does it take to get you to watch the Paddington franchise?
Maybe just 2, actually.
All right, there you go.
I'm curious now.
Yeah. No, strongly recommend. 2 thumbs up.
Also, haters, don't hear that they have a perfect score and go like troll the comments to be that person.
I think you gotta verify.
Be
I think
okay.
I see you Paddington haters out there coming for us in the comments. No.
But you made a distinction that resonates of the difference between entertainment and this having a more intentional, educational, pedagogical approach. And so I want to work backwards. Like, what does that mean in terms of how you see it living in the world? What does that mean in terms of outreach? And then if there's any parts of how that reshaped how you created, how you took in the information, how you put it together, you can add that as well. But what does it mean to not be an entertainment piece, but be a film that you want people to enjoy?
Right. Yeah. I think one thing is it brings back to like the thoughtfulness, right? I think if you're just hoping to entertain someone, there's a level of like superficiality that you can just, you just need that really, because entertainment just means like stimulation, right? And so to stimulate, you can just flash some bright lights and, you're technically, you've hit the marker that you're looking for. And I think really for anything other substantive, then you have to be more thoughtful about like what you choose to put on screen, like what you choose for the people to say, how you choose for it to sound, like, all these things. And so I think there's a level of thoughtfulness that you have to create, you have to like be mindful of. In terms of like releasing the film, definitely I plan to help create a discussion activity guide so that when it's released, people have like discussion questions, so that really the dream and the hope is that people can screen the film either publicly or intimately in like friend gatherings and just like screen the film and then talk about what's in the film. And then so I'll create a discussion guide for folks to just like have some prompts to go through. I think in that way it's kind of like thinking you to like think about and reflect. And then obviously from the writer's room, there's a lot of thought that we had around, like what are we including and why are we including it? It was very intentional to have the first film be about theft. And the second film of the series is around an instance of domestic violence, which is very intentionally decided on. So I think it's like knowing that you want someone to take something away requires a level of like thoughtfulness about what you tell them, obviously, right?
So let's talk about where we are in the second one. Because the first one, I believe, is out now. And the second one is not. And the second one is basically reliant on everyone who's listening to this. So where are we at in the process? What do you need?
Yes. So right now, the second film has a Kickstarter that is trying to raise the funds necessary to pay the creatives and pay for the work to create the second film. For the first film, we had a grant that was really helpful. For the second film, we don't have a grant at the moment. And so we've launched a Kickstarter so that people can invest and support in being able to tell another story, another example of ways that people look to one another to build safety and community. And so that is happening. If folks feel led, obviously, to like invest in the project, that is really beneficial and make sure we can invest in creativity in intentional ways.
Do you know the URL right now? We'll put it in there.
WeCallEachOther.com.
There you go.
Go to WeCallEachOther.com.
Excellent.
We're going to say this a bunch of times. Kickstarter.
Hey.
WeCallEachOther.com. We're trying to make this happen.
Hey.
All right. I want to go back a little bit. But good job, because we need to say that multiple times.
WeCallEachOther.com.
So
We've
talked a lot about the writer's room. We're talking a little bit about the outreach and the ways we want people to receive it. But you kind of jokingly, but literally said, like, you Googled how to direct.
Oh, I did.
And so I want to hear about that experience, but it kind of is a continuation of the question I asked earlier of like, what can we learn as space makers, as facilitators, as holders of complex human systems that have a lot of moving parts? I believe the film set as a form, although it has its limitations and some harmful norms and wasteful norms, but overall it's a true feat of organization because there's so many moving people, there's so many moving tasks, and as somebody who like grew up on film sets, seeing that no matter where you are, whatever city, there's like transferable language, there's very distinct roles, there's overlap, and on most sets, the coordination of that ultimately falls on the director. And so one, I want to hear about your experience, but two, I'm curious because in even some of our like internal structure designs of Breathing Room, we like use the language of direction and production and action to kind of like parallel some of that complexity. And so, yeah, one, do you see that? And two, how was your experience going from how to direct at google.com to how to direct on
we
the
call
set?
each other.
Right. Well, I will just name there that producers are also very helpful in like logistics, and so John A. Strong was a producer on the project and was helpful, and so as well as other producers. So, yes, I mean, one of the first things that's honestly a big learning that I think space makers can hold is that when you're trying to do a thing that involves multiple moving parts and multiple people having to hold the different parts, there's a level of grace that is required to help things flow. Like quite literally, like we have to understand that film sets or a campaign or, like whatever the thing that's like intense pressure, technically time bound, technically high, stakes of whatever, variety you have, the grace helps you flow through moments with more ease so that you can get to the thing that you need to do. Like what's an example? Like that's actually, I was talking to another friend who was going through a high stakes moment at her job. And she was like, what advice do you have, like, as someone who had to, like, work with a lot of people? I think she was, like, referencing set, probably. And I was just like, grace has to be the lens through which you communicate with people. Like, it has to be how you see people and then how you show up with people. because we need that.
Right.
Like, people need to feel seen. People need to be acknowledged as going through a lot to then help us get to the thing that we need to get to. Like, you can't coordinate that many moving parts without acknowledging that it's hard and acknowledging that, like, people need to be people while they're in order to flow into what we need to go to.
And hearing that, I love that. That sounds so true. In hearing that, this like emphasis of grace, I feel like, especially when there's something incorrect, right? Something, I'm not even using wrong. Like, there's just things that need correction, that need redirection.
And that can be like someone made a mistake, or it could be like it started raining.
Right, right, exactly. And points where you, as the person who needs to give grace, when you are recognizing a feeling of frustration. Like, at that time specifically, that's where you need to lean deeper into that. Was that a stretch for you, or was that a realization of like, oh, I'm attuned to be gracious in this way and I see how valuable it is?
It was, okay, I think I'm attuned to be like solutions oriented. That's another thing I'll say is like, just find the solution. Being upset about the thing isn't as important as finding the solution.
Right. Yeah,
that's my hot take.
Yeah. It's
and
more
so
problem solving than yelling.
I think it was like, I realized at some point, like, oh, it's unhelpful to sit in my anger for too long when I have to be on set in 2 days. Like, or like, we're going back to shooting after lunch in 3 minutes. Like, I have to let go of something in order to find a solution towards like whatever we needed. So I think I'm pretty naturally solutions oriented. And so once I realized that the grace thing helped, I was like, okay, period. Let's just like, oh, you're coming to me with better energy, and I'm coming to you with better energy if I just like, you know, let go of.
That's hard. That can be hard to do, though.
It's hard in high intensity.
Especially when you feel like the person who holds the like central responsibility to me.
It is hard. I'm not going to name that it's not hard. There were definitely moments when I was frustrated and like needed something to move in ways that it didn't. And then in those moments, I had people like tell me like, okay, you're just going to have to like find a solution and just like keep rocking. So yeah.
Graciously orient yourself towards solutions.
And then it's like grace to yourself too, right? That's massive. But I think it's hard. It's definitely hard. I'll name, especially in high stress moments.
I love that you brought that up because I've heard you say that film set thing before, and I feel like your ultimate like platonic ideals are like if we had the organizational efficiency of a film set and the ground game of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Our movement would be so strong.
Yeah, you just clocked me. Yeah. Any airport, any corner around the world.
Around the world.
Yo.
And everybody knows their role.
They somehow the materials are being distributed.
Put those two together.
I mean, okay.
The same button down?
Yeah.
I mean, like fashion is involved. I mean, I will say though, I think our movements could benefit from like spiritual practice, which is what, when you named Jehovah's Witness, I was thinking about like God being a motivation for them, right? Like it's actually God who's asking you to like knock on your door, is a particular level of like conviction and like urgency and also like attunement.
Rather than like Asha's asking you to knock on the door, and like
it's great, you know,
shout out.
I have a level of deference, but it's a slightly different level of deference.
You know, right, exactly. It's like, saying no to God is different.
Let's say no to Asha.
Yeah.
Almost.
No, it's different. It is different. And or just like also, yes. It also, but I will say like personally, also why I feel like the movement could benefit from like spiritual practice is it widens what you're doing. Like if you're doing something for the glory of God, like in your brain, like it expands the project into a realm that could hypothetically like give other sorts of support to your work that are not tangible in this particular material reality. So that's my...
Can we talk about it a little bit more?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure, yeah.
This is your bag, too.
This is particular. This is like, I'm
we're getting in your God bag.
I don't need that.
Yeah. Open up your God bag. Let's do it.
How does the interplay of those like work for you as a creative worker and as a maker? And then like, where did you feel those limitations show up? You're saying like we could use a little bit more of that in movement, which means it sounds like you had experiences where that wasn't as present as you feel like it could have been. How did that feel for you when you see the value? And it's also just a part of who you are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, at some point I had to ask myself like, or I was just curious, why do we think we're right? Like what? No, like really like, because the left says so, because a book says so. I guess some people I guess think about like religious texts as just books, but like it's kind of like if it's not connected to a divine source or like a divine light, then it's technically I know there's some people that are like staunch like atheists for like political reasons. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, can we finish? I want to finish this sentence.
Okay,
if it isn't connected to that, then what?
Then it's just material world stuff. Like, how lame. I don't know. Like,
interesting.
Like, I think, and again, this is like, I have love for all of my atheist
look,
friends.
the atheist caveats
Yes.
included. We know you're not coming for anybody and
yes.
saying
It's
you need
just,
God. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, no. It's just maybe not lame or just maybe it's just personally, like my spiritual life feels so rich that like not having God a part of my life or not having any sort of like sense of the spiritual world that's at work feels like less than the world. Also just like the world is not showing up for me. Like I was naming that in the beginning, like the world is not showing up for me and my loved ones quite literally. And so it just feels like not all the way there.
Mm-hmm. But there's this other
It's another realm
entity that feels like there's a little more showing up for you.
There's some juice there. Yeah.
I hear that, and that makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking about, you said like if it's not, and I'm not challenging you because I also, a lot of the work I do is guided by my like faith practice too. So I'm with you. I think like if it isn't because of this larger deity, then it's just the material world. There's this middle ground of like morality and value.
Yeah.
Right? And those are actually not material.
Right.
Like you form what you believe in, what your guiding morals and values are. And not everyone is driven by that, but I think a lot of people, that kind of serves as an intermediary, because for some people that comes from their religious practice or faith practice. For some people it comes from different books.
Yeah.
But I think that can be that middle guiding where it's not just we need to win this campaign. It's we need to live in a world where this is happening.
Yeah.
And that I think what I do think we have is like a sense of moral responsibility, which I think it moves people who it moves, and then it's also really unpleasant and off-putting for other people. And so that's part of what you're saying. Not that part, but is like the shortcoming of being a morals-driven movement is that feels like prescriptive to people, or like ironically holier than thou in what we're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but like that, like interesting, yeah.
What do you think, Dame? How does that like? Do morals feel like the thing that takes that place in a spiritualist movement?
So I think, for me right now, and this gets hokey too, but it's important to distinguish between religion, theology, and what I hear you saying of like spiritual or beyond the material is present. So, I have this framework where, I look at all of the religious traditions of the world, and pretty much all of them have a liberatory sect, and pretty much all of them have a hyper-violent, militarized sect as well. Yeah. And so what kind of over time crystallized for me of like, as I began to have rejections, questions, see contradictions that have not been held or reconciled in a way that satisfy me, what I do see is that instead of like, let's look at Cone liberatory theology and let's look at some liberatory Hindus and like say we can all sit in the same room, and it's like, why don't we remove what is the division and say that there is a central spiritual tradition of liberation that is global and kind of transcends time and space. And so for me, I see liberation as a spiritual tradition.
You like keep the liberation, skip the theology?
Kind of, and like, you kind of made a counter distinction between religious texts and other texts.
I did.
But they are also all just stories,
right.
Usually stories of people grappling with how power is shaping those who are being oppressed or most harmed. And so, I look at Fred Hampton the way people look at Orishas or the way people look at saints, and that sacrifice of life and death towards something greater than yourself, something actually greater than the collection of the material, to me feels extremely spiritual. And I can get, I think, the same resonance people have from other figures and characters, from those that I see myself in direct lineage of, and have particularly those who made ultimate sacrifices. And also martyrdom is an important part of like religious traditions as well. So yeah, I think there is an in between of, we can't just be, like the old 20th century cold, like theoretical mathematician Marxists. They're like, if you do these things in the surplus labor, and then it will eventually,
like 2 + 2 is like, there's no numbers.
That's not
going
to do it. I tell this story all the time.
That was a good 20th century rationalist.
I tell this story all the time. I honor Dorothy Holmes, the mother of Ronnie Man Johnson. And I remember it was the first year anniversary of his death. And there was like a rally and talk I was invited to. And it was like, I'm coming to be the Black Radical. And I got, my...
turtleneck?
No, I had some either Black Panther or Fred Hampton shirt on or something. Okay. It's like I worked really hard on what my little speech was, and I had all of these stats. And then I looked around, and it wasn't a rally of activists who need to be affirmed in the numbers of how many people the police kill. It was his family. And it's like, oh, what I thought I was going to say is so inadequate to this moment. There is a deeper human love, spiritual, and if that is informed by God, I don't think it has to be, but there's a deeper spiritual responsibility that's being called for right now. There's a deeper ethic of love. There's a deeper human morality, which I think is an articulation of what I hear you saying, that for me does not require the God funnel to get there, but I think the same exact process you're naming is a necessity.
That's interesting. I feel like I appreciate that. Even though we differ, I really appreciate that you're seeing the spiritual labor of Fred Hampton. You're seeing like his spirit be involved in the work.
Yeah. Harriet Tubman, right,
exactly. All that required, I would argue.
And once I realized that, and then realized, that there is a, Malcolm and Martin were ministers. There is a, where are the spaces people gather, where, the Catholic priests of Latin America, right? Like that there is this tradition that is held, but after a while, I think there was also a deep-seated resentment to the organization of Christianity and those that adhere to that organization. And it took this reframe for me to, I'm not even really in conflict, but for me to refine that love or appreciate or make more space, I think, for Christians at large. I think for a while they were taking up too much space for me. We, I was raised Christian. We're taking up too much space, and a counterforce of understanding was needed for me, but then connecting to this larger respect of how spirituality can not only connect us to an understanding of what comes before and after, but our responsibility as human beings as we're here. And so it's even like, I look at church folks with a little bit of a softer eye these last few years.
Thanks. Thanks.
I think you are actually a direct embodiment of that. Folks like you, folks like Xavier Ramey, that wear on your sleeve, I think, not only how important your faith is to you, but embody a non-contradictory alignment to what the best of it is supposed to be. While also, I think being devout without dogmatism is something I observe with you.
Right.
That
Dogmatism
I really
is like teaching or whatever? Or
dogmatism
is like the
it's more like
rigidity,
rigid rule following.
Oh, yes, right. Dogma. Okay.
Yeah. So like, because how I interpreted this, now any queer person is an affront to God.
Right. Static text.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I think of that.
You have to wear this to be able to come in here.
Right,
you have to talk this way.
Right. Yeah. That just like speaks to me of just like, there's like, is your God rigid or is your God a living God? Like, does your God live and move and like breathe with the Spirit, or is your God from 2,000 years ago?
We can just talk about this the rest of the.
Is your God just really upset about shoulders for some reason?
Right. Yeah.
Focus on like you have to cover your shoulders. Shoulders.
Girl, I don't know.
So I'm curious because like you from a faith-rooted place have done this work in the world, right? You're knocking door to door, and you understand that, as I hear it, as like part of your assignment from God. Is that too much?
It's no. Well, that's the thing is, I had a come to Jesus moment. I fell out of the
literally
faith.
a little.
Yeah. So I fell out of the faith honestly in college when I learned about colonialism. I was like, if this is what that is, no, thank you. So just resonate about the violence that people who say that they are doing things in the name of God in the church have committed, and how very upsetting that is, personally, who's someone who's found liberation in my relationship with Christ, right? So I had a come to Jesus moment, though, in 2019.
Okay.
And so...
I remember that year.
That's right. There we go. And so then when I guess that's right. So I was, organizing when I was, like, having a stronger relationship or building back my relationship with God. Yeah.
And so with that, I'm curious... Was there an inverse of that trajectory of like from this God assignment doing this work of organizing and trying to build a better world? Is there a, y'all call it the body or call it the house of God? Is there been any internal struggle like, oh, I'm also imbued with these intersectional liberatory politics? But basically, has there been any push, do
the contradictions flare up?
Teaching, learning of like, hey, these are, I think, some ideas that we need to be wrestling with.
Totally.
Yeah. How does that go?
I mean, yeah. And like, I feel like in movement spaces, like Christianity is like whack. And then in church spaces, there's all these, totally. People are interpreting their faith or like interpreting the text, the Bible in very particular ways. It totally comes up. It's hard and it's sad, obviously, when I know it's so true to me and then it's like things aren't true to other people.
How do you understand that schism or that like in movement space, Christianity's whack. In the church, there's like this, well, that's them over there.
Right.
Like, obviously, this is a historical question, but I'm curious for you, like, how do you understand that split point of a thing that lived, obviously not the same, but closer in, like, previous generations?
I think we can't discount colonialism, right, from the church and, like, people's relationship to colonialism in the church. Like, I just don't think you can, like, pretend like it didn't happen or like pretend like there wasn't a very deep relationship to each other. So like folks are using the Bible to live out authoritarian terror, so and have like enslaved our ancestors from that. So I think maybe, honestly, maybe it gives me like some grace when I see people that are still like locked in particular like white supremacist, colonial imperialist like frames of mind. I can honestly have like grace because it's like, well, this is like the thing you were told. Like this.
That's what the authority figure told you.
Yeah, like this is the authority figure. Like if there's been no other invitation to love in a different way, like this is what we've technically been steeped in for a very long time. So, yeah.
Okay, I have a thought. I love this. Are we good here?
Yeah.
I'm loving
you. Okay.
These are some great waters.
I'm like, woo.
I know this is your bag. Let's stay
this is like a woo.
So, I would it was like kind of a tradition. For many years, I would do this like keynote speech in my grandma's church for Black History Month and talk about the Black radical tradition and blah blah blah.
Okay.
Before the pastor went down in scandal. It does. It does happen.
No, it happens.
But don't blame the keynote.
Yeah. But one of the prompts I found, because I feel like I probably started doing this around 2015. And so then by like the second or third year, the first Trump administration is coming into, we're getting Betsy DeVos taking over the education department and like saying they are defunding education under the name of God, right? Like, and that to me was like, whoa, okay, this is scary. Now we see obviously the connection to Zionism and all that.
Do you remember that moment?
I do, of course.
So very early, like maybe we'd been doing the show for 2 years. It was like our first trip.
Yeah, it's
together.
like 2017.
Yeah. We were in LA and we were talking about like this cast of characters.
We're a few months after the inauguration.
And Dame's like, I don't understand like what their goal is just to destroy. Like, and I was like, Dame, they are fundamentalist religious zealots.
Yeah.
Like,
and that frightened me way more than political ideologues.
No, bro. Religious zealots killed Jesus.
Boom.
So
Boom. There you go. So
like, yeah.
So
and then a lot of other people since.
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm just like, but
They
like,
were like, all right,
it's
we're
terrifying.
done.
It's
Yeah,
bad. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's bad.
Yeah. And so using that context of like talking to my grandma, what I heard at first to the question was like how you hold kind of folks in your church space, which I'm assuming and projecting is like a black church.
No, it's like
No.
interracial.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah.
Okay, well, a good church, a good
I like
folk
them, yeah.
church.
I like
And even like, you know, black churches can have these conservative internal thrusts, but
Yeah.
on the whole,
Mhm.
on the spectrum, lean
Mhm.
towards like a progressive space in the
Yeah.
world. But then there is this, you know, the center of, I think, American Christianity right now that is at the forefront of fascism, at the forefront of imperialism, oppression, and like accelerating right now. And so this is not a you responsibility, but what responsibility do you feel Christians, black Christians have specifically in the way that abolitionists are like, oh, we need to stand up against fascism, we need to stand up against the cops.
Right.
It feels like this is the fight more than the general public
Right.
or
Yeah.
laws. Like
Yeah.
our God is being used in the name of, and I feel
Yeah.
like do you see a fervor to resist that within the church spectrum, the church landscape?
I don't see it in the landscape. I think it is our responsibility, though. I think if you are a Christian, if you say you're a Christian, if you say you have a relationship with Christ, and you are not actively resisting violence in his name, like that is literally your responsibility. I actually do think it's our responsibility. So, like
It feels obvious when you ask
it's
it,
just
but like
what?
but do we see that anywhere? I feel like
I mean, I do see it. I do see it. It's just too small for me.
Yeah.
Like
it's,
track 9 on Chance's album.
right.
Is
yeah.
You know,
what?
letters.
Yeah, letters. Oh, you haven't heard those?
The track 9. I don't know.
The song
No, the
letters. where
song
he-
he's
it's
writing to
after
different
the letters
churches.
of
Oh.
Paul, Peter. I get my
No.
Bible confused,
Oh,
but
great.
the first verse is to his church. The second verse is to the black church. The third
great.
verse is to the mega church,
Oh.
and then the fourth verse is to the body.
Oh, period.
It's
It's up your. It's right up your alley.
it's
Yeah.
very
No,
good.
this is a good song. You
Oh,
should
period.
you should
Okay.
check this out specifically.
And it does kind of exactly what of like don't shirk the responsibility
No, yeah.
that you have.
I mean, I
we can
think-
forgive Dylan Roof, but we put out queer people. You know,
Right, of
we're-
like,
we're-
What?
Yeah.
Bro.
I feel like we
Yeah, we got there.
I feel like we solved that. I want to go back actually to one more piece of it. It's just like how knowing how integrated and embodied this is for you.
Mm.
What does it feel like to make things, whether that's organizing work, art, media, the things you pour yourself into, knowing that you may be not in knowing that other people might not be moving from that same place, or is there a fear of judgment? Like, how have you moved through knowing that you might be the only person in the room who holds this the way you do? Actually, on both ends, on the movement end and in the religious space.
Right. I mean, I won't lie. Like, it is sad sometimes. Like, yeah, because these are all loved ones, right? Like, these are all people who I love, who I also believe love me. And so I think it gets hard sometimes. Yeah, feeling like more alone in the different spaces. In like how embodied it feels for me, finding people in my life who have blended, who have like understand the relationship and the connections has been incredibly affirming and really helpful. But no, I mean, it's just like, I feel like it's kind of like falling in love. Like, if you've fallen in love, you feel connected to this person, and then if all of a sudden like they're showing up in ways that are not ideal for you, it's like, dang. Dang. Like,
Big dang.
Yeah, big dang.
You don't hear dang that much.
So
or
Yeah.
dag.
Dag.
dag. I
Yeah.
don't like dag as much as I like dang.
Yeah.
Dang was the ultimate cheat code. Yeah. Yeah, that was good.
Dang, they're cursing.
Oh, right. But yeah, so I mean, it's, I don't know. Yeah, that's probably the most honest answer. It's like kind of maybe that's what I'm feeling right now. Maybe. Yeah.
So as we move towards wrapping up here, there's obviously like many parts of your life.
And there's obviously WeCallEachOther.com.
Obviously.
That's obvious that there's
obvious.
that.
I mean, that almost goes without saying at this point, but it's worth
But
saying.
one could also say, you could go to WeCallEachOther.com.
One could say, we go to WeCallEachOther.com.
Or WeCallEachOther.com.
Excellent.
Yes.
So before we get out of here, we talked about episode 1 being in the world and what the fundraising is. And
people can support the creation of episode 2 at WeCallEachOther.com.
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 WeCallEachOther.com. But can we talk a little bit more about what the second film that we're asking people to support is? Like, what's at the core of the story?
Yeah. So what I had mentioned is that I'll say that in the series, each film of the series follows a different harm or crisis that people navigate without calling the cops or sending someone to prison. And so the second film, the crisis or the harm that happens that we're discussing is an instance of domestic violence. And so basically what you see in the film is a coordinated community response to an instance of domestic harm, intimate partner violence. And that was actually really important to me, that like that was a story that we told because of how unhelpful cops have ever been in any aspects of my life in which I've had to navigate or like deal with domestic violence. And so it is it's actually probably the first, it's the second film of the series at this point, but it was the first story that we actually created that I actually like ever wrote for this project. Backstory, me and Troy actually did a writer's room, like a small writer's room before our writer's room. I completely forgot about this. We made a script and it was about an instance of domestic violence because I felt so strongly that was such a clear example that a militarized officer does nothing for interpersonal harm, right? And an instance of domestic violence was like so clearly like, why would you call the cops on intimate partner violence? Like, especially if it's a Black folks, right? Like that is so violent and unhelpful. It has been unhelpful in my life.
It assumes this binary of perpetrator victim. And so this idea that now someone who's harmed me is not someone I will remain in relationship with or love, or, the obvious like survived and punished dynamic of you're calling for your own protection and then you end up being criminalized or incarcerated for whatever myriad of ways they find a way to perpetuate the harm, which is, I think, a really substantial and important choice. And I wonder what new learnings came from it, because this is very aligned with the history of the modern abolitionist movement. And I think a lot of people use domestic violence as a gotcha in a way that is understandable. Grace, always. But ironic, because our modern abolitionist formations come from people doing domestic violence work. And as a counter to like the white-centered carceral feminism of, was it just the crime bill?
No, leading up to,
it was before the crime bill.
The 80s is kind of when I think about like the rise of carceral feminism, because the crime bill is like the federal enshrining, but there were that was like a large push,
up to it, right? And so, what many people don't realize when we're talking about defund the police, they think it was just something we made up out of nowhere. It's from folks doing work in prisons, doing work with domestic violence survivors, doing work with survivors of SA, name exactly what you named, of across the country, across income brackets, but particularly for working class and poor Black people, Black women, people of color, undocumented folks. It's not only unhelpful, it actually is harmful. And that is where the idea of like, we need to build something else, we need to move away from, became tangible. And so it's just important to know that history. And then I think it substantiates why this assignment or this, responsibility you're taking up in this film is so important.
Yeah, and I think it also gets to people's trigger responses to just assume that cops do everything to solve. I think it's just such a clear example that like this thing that your brain is doing where it's linking the solution to anything wrong to a cop is flawed. It just doesn't actually make sense. So it's just such a clear like this thing that your brain is doing of like linking to this militarized officer like doesn't actually make sense.
But to bring it full circle, that information or that belief came from counter storytelling. It came from propaganda, but particularly the news as a storytelling element of like people seeing themselves in these harms. And then the image they see right next to it is the cop making it right, or the end of the Law and Order episode, the cop standing up for the downtrodden.
Exactly.
And people have heard that story now hundreds of thousands of times in a way that they've internalized.
Precisely.
And so you got to watch We Call Each Other about a good 50,000 times to like rewire your brain.
Yeah, just put it on repeat.
I mean, do what you gotta do.
I'm so excited to see this ultimately take form and be in the world. And I love the pace. I know I'm sure it's frustrating, and challenging, but the pace at which you're making things, I think, is really beautiful and gives the room in between them to have the time to think about these kind of learnings and figure out like, how do I do this in a way that like gives people what they might need in different ways. So excited to see it come into the world. Folks, make sure that you go help make that possible. And beyond the specific project, how can folks find you and your work in the ways you want to be found?
Yeah.
Other than going to We Call Each Other.
WeCallEachOther.com.
Dang, it's gonna like people gonna go to sleep and then like their dreams.
We gotta write a jingle now. I feel like.
Let's see. Okay, so on Instagram you can follow at We Call Each Other to just like stay connected on like updates. On We Call Each Other, there'll also be like a link to sign up for a newsletter if you. On all the platforms that I'm saying, WeCallEachOther.com or Instagram, there'll be a link to a newsletter that you can sign up for to get like little like letters from us and the team. There's obviously the Kickstarter, which will come with like different rewards that you can get if you invest in the project. And then I'm at Sarah Oberholtzer.
One of the top-notch Instagram names. You deserve all of the praise for that. It's very good. We're at AirGo Radio and at Respair Media.
I'm at Damon_AF.
I'm at AirGo Kiss. And we'll be back reshaping culture for the more liberatory and creative.
Much love to the people.
Peace.
Thank you.